Hello and thank you for joining me here at Why the Book Wins. My name is Laura, and in today's video I am continuing my coverage of Dark Matter. The book is by Blake Crouch. The TV show is written and created by Blake Crouch. By the way, I do own this Suntup Press edition of Dark Matter, and I have a whole video where I show it off from like a year ago, so I will link to that in case you want to watch it. But yeah, I'm continuing the coverage of the TV show, and before we get started, make sure and comment down below what your thoughts are on the show so far, and if you have any favorite scenes, any favorite moments, definitely let me know. And in this video, I'm going to go through it episode by episode, beginning with episode 4, and we are just going to dive right in. So in this episode, we see Jason and Amanda trying different doors into different worlds, and through trial and error, they eventually realize that it is their thoughts and feelings that dictate the type of world they enter. And then we also saw the Leighton from the rich world, the rich Leighton. We see him go into the box following Jason and Amanda, but through the course of the episode, it is not going well for him and he seems on the brink of death. We then see Jason too, and he has decided to quit his college job. I did not expect this. I thought that he would like be a great college teacher and get kids excited again, you know, but he just decides no, he is over this. He doesn't want to be a teacher. He quits. And so it's interesting because turns out the simple life, the life of Daniela and Charlie, it's not enough for him. And he wants to be rich and successful too, right? He wants to have his cake and eat it too. And so he seeks out the Leighton of this world he has super rich parents. So he is a multi-millionaire. And so Jason too reaches out to him and he shows him the box, and the Leighton of this world is very bored with life. And so he loves the idea of, you know, finally this box is excitement and finally it's a challenge. And so Leighton is all about this. And so he and Jason strike up a deal. However, when Jason too is busy with the Leighton, it is Charlie's birthday, but Charlie had a twin who died very young. Max is the twin's name. On their birthday, they have a time where they sit at this tree that they planted in honor of Max and just remember him and share the story of, you know, the birth, finding out they had twins and all of that. But Jason too doesn't know this is a tradition, and so he misses it because he is with the Leighton. And so again, Jason too, Daniela and Charlie are just slipping away from him because he doesn't realize what's important to them, and he's just on a totally different wavelength, obviously, than Daniela and Charlie. So they are just continuing to see that something is weird with Jason. And so the changes from the book here, we do not have the twin in the book. It was just Charlie, and I really liked this addition to the story. And one of my favorite scenes is the moment when they are sitting at the tree, Daniela is with Charlie, and then we see Jason with Amanda in the box, and he is telling her like, oh, today is my son's birthday. And then we've cut back and forth between Jason and Daniela sharing the same story of when they found out they were pregnant with twins and just about Max and his life. And I loved the scene so much. And even though they're not in the same scene, they just have great chemistry. And I just love the moments, these like human moments between Jason, our Jason, and Daniela. They're just some of my favorite moments in the show. Like I talked about in my previous video, one of my favorite moments is when he's just telling Daniela about the life they share. And I just gotta praise the acting, because when Joel Edgerton is playing Jason too, he and Daniela do not have this chemistry. And yet when he is our Jason, that is when he and Jennifer Connelly have this real, genuine connection between the two of them, and you feel it. And so yeah, just fantastic acting. And that was a great scene. And I really like that addition. And yeah, like I said in the last video, we do not get any of these added details about Jason too. So much of this is just unique to the show. And that goes for the following episodes I'll be talking about too. Like none of this is in the book, and I'm loving this edition too. And it is cool that this is written by Blake Crouch, because as the years have gone on, maybe these are his own changes that he wishes he could have done with the book perhaps, or maybe he's happy with the book how it is, but it's just cool that he gets to revisit this work and make these changes and make these additions and flesh out some of these characters that he didn't in the book, you know? So it is just really cool that Blake Crouch himself is the one who made these additions. And yeah, I just think it's so interesting how Jason too, in the book, it seemed like he was happy, but again, we didn't see much of him. But in the show, yeah, we see that this is not enough for him. And yeah, I just find it really interesting, and I'm very compelled by this storyline. So on to episode 5. In this episode, Amanda and Jason find Blair being a Velocity employee who went into the box but never returned. So they find the world she is in, which is like overrun by these hornet type creatures. And so it's not a good world, and yet she's choosing to stay there because she was in the box for so long and it was just messing her up mentally. So she's like, I am not ready to go in that box. I would rather stay here in this crazy world than put myself through that box again. And she also tells them, like, gives them advice on the box, being like, you know, it's not enough to just like think of a world. Like, there is so much that goes into it. Like, your emotions that you're feeling affect the world, and just be very, very careful of what you imagine before you open a door. And so from here, Jason and Amanda continue to open new doors, one of which there is a plague taking over the city. And in this world, he sees Daniela die. And then another world, it seems normal at first, but then when he sees Daniela, she freaks out. And it turns out that the Jason of this world is in prison. So she's calling the cops on him. And we also in this world see that the Amanda of this world had died. And so while it's not working out and they're not finding the right world, with each try, they are learning and refining their use of the box. Meanwhile, Jason too, he has made a deal with Layton because again, Layton wants to go into the box. And so he's like, I'll give you $1 million per ampule. And ampules are how many opportunities you have to try new worlds. And so the only way Jason too can get more is to go back to his world. So he goes back to his world, he gets more ampules. And while he is there, he talks to an employee at Velocity, and he is there just long enough to hear that Jason and Amanda went back into the box. And so he knows that Jason is coming after him. And so he gives Layton the ampules, and then he tells him, like, once you go in the box, I'm shutting it off from this world. So like Layton, he can travel to any other world except this one, because he needs to seal it off to prevent Jason from returning. And the character of Blair is not in the book at all. And this scene was fine. Like, it was kind of interesting. And she does give them some helpful information on the box. But in the book, everything they learned about the box, they just learned through trial and error. And so for the most part, I feel like this scene was unnecessary, and it kind of just felt like padding to fill up time in the show. So it wasn't one of my favorite scenes. Like, it was fine. But the scene where we have the world where a virus has taken over and then he sees Daniela die, that scene is in the book. And this scene was fantastic in the show. I loved it so much when he is with Daniela as she is dying from this virus. They're sharing memories, talking about the memories they have together. And they're talking about one specific memory. And she's like, oh, that day was perfect. And then he says, all of our days were perfect. And even just talking about this, like, it gives me chills because it was such a sweet scene and I absolutely loved it. And it was so sad, but so tender. And again, I need to praise the acting because they were just phenomenal in this scene. I absolutely loved it. And then it's interesting because on Blake Crouch's Instagram, he shared that when he was writing the script, we were in the midst of COVID. And so he did not include this scene from the book because he's like, people don't want to see something like this during COVID. But then in 2022, when the show was coming together more and Jennifer Connelly was cast, she approached him asking, because she read the book and she was like, why is this scene not in the script? Like, I loved that part in the book. And so this was in 2022. And so he's like, you know, the show doesn't air until 2024. So that should be long enough. And so I'll go ahead and put this scene in. And I'm so glad he did, right? Because I loved it. And I thought it was really cool that Jennifer Connelly is the one that pushed him and was like championing this scene. And so yeah, I just thought that was a really cool backstory. Also in this episode, we get a Mad Max reference, which I really liked. I don't know if Blake Crouch knew that the release of this show would coincide with the new Mad Max movie Furiosa, but I'm going to use this opportunity to promote Furiosa. If you have not seen that in theaters yet, you definitely should. It's fantastic. I absolutely loved it. So yeah, it's so sad that it did horribly at the box office, but anyway, you should definitely go see it if you have not yet because it's an amazing experience. But on to episode 6. So in this episode, Amanda and Jason are trying out different worlds and a lot of them are so close and yet they're not the right one. And Amanda is looking at what he's writing and he's writing like details, like this is the color of the door, this is the length of Daniela's hair. And he's just writing very surface level things and it's not working because they're not finding the right world. And Amanda is like, how much more of this can you take? Like to see all these different versions of your wife, like it's gonna drive you crazy. And so while they're dealing with that, Jason too, he gives Charlie ice cream with nuts and Charlie is allergic to nuts. And so this is a huge deal. Of course, Charlie could have died. And Daniela is just like, how could you have done that? Like what? And she also sees the marks on his arm from when he gives himself the injections for the box. And so she is like, what is going on? Like, is he on drugs? And then one night she follows him to his storage unit. And once he has left, she is able to like reach under and get an ampule. And she takes this ampule and gives it to Ryan. And Ryan is like, wow, this is like the compound I'm trying to work on. And so he approaches Jason 2 about this. And Jason 2 then reveals to him the box. And he takes him to a world, like an amazing world. But then he shuts the door and he leaves Ryan in that world. world and abandons him there. And then after this, he seals up the box. He has cement put all around it. And that is how this episode ends. And so again, I am loving this added storyline with Jason too. Also, I forgot to mention, he also goes to a therapist. He seeks out Amanda, who is a therapist still in this world. And he's telling her about his complaints and how this isn't the life he thought it would be. Obviously, he's not telling her about the box or anything, but he tells her kind of like his ideal life is one where he's in a corridor filled with doors, filled with options. And so she's like, it sounds like you're someone who just doesn't want to commit to anything. And yeah, I'm just loving seeing how he is not happy in this world and it's not all he thought it would be. And again, I think he's someone who just isn't capable of being happy, right? Because in the world where he had all the financial success, he wasn't happy and he sought out this world. And now in this world, he's not happy either. So I feel like he really struggles with just being content in life, you know? And he tells her he wants perfection, right? But none of us can achieve perfection in life. And so if that's what you're going after, you never will be happy. And so we are just seeing so much into him. And when he abandons Ryan, I suspected that would happen as soon as they opened the door into that world. And then he's like, give me your phone. Like, how suspicious is that? And so I expected he would abandon Ryan there, but man, like that was cold-blooded. So he is just ruthless, right? But then he does seal up the box. So he's trapping himself in this world, right? So even though he's not happy, he still is going to be forced to try to make it work, whether he stays with Daniela or not. But I'm also really liking that we're seeing Daniela. In the book, she noticed something was off, but we don't get much with her. Whereas here, she is really seeing something is off. And then she's following him, trying to see what is going on. And so I'm just loving that we're seeing more of her. And yeah, the stuff with Amanda and Jason in this episode definitely wasn't quite as interesting. Like this was a very Jason 2 heavy episode. And yeah, I was loving it. So yeah, I thought this was a really good one. It gave us a lot of insight into him. But yeah, my final thoughts. So I'm really enjoying the show still. I am still compelled and intrigued by what is happening. I am especially interested in the stuff with Jason 2. And again, the acting is phenomenal. The production, everything is just top notch. And so even though I still think it's too long, I still don't think it needed to be a 9-hour show. Even so, considering that I still know how it will end, it still has my attention, you know? And by the way, in the book, Jason 2 did not seal up the box. So that's going to be interesting. I'm curious how they're going to work around that and what will end up happening. So they're being faithful to the book. And yet at the same time, there's enough differences and there's enough additions that I'm still interested and intrigued, even though I assume it will still end the same, but I'm curious how they will get there. So yeah, that is episodes 4, 5, and 6. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. The next Dark Matter video I make will be on the end of the show, the last 3 episodes. So I will see you in 3 weeks. And until then, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.